Desde los barrios de la Ciudad de México para el mundo,
Okay, great, we're live. Welcome. Welcome everybody who's joining us on Twitch. This is an event in our Time We Call Our Own series. Oh, so I've got the audio going on in the background. I need to get rid of that. That was really distracting. Cool, sorry about that. Welcome to Sonidero City with Mirjam Wirz. So this event is part of the Time We Call Our Own. So this is an exhibition that's currently up in the gallery, and largely it's about the politics of the dance floor or party cultures worldwide, and the way that people kind of make identity through nightlife, and the way that that identity is captured and documented and archived so that other people can kind of participate and understand that, and the way that identities sort of grow through these acts of documentation. So Mirjam's work is currently on show. She has a film in the gallery. She also has a selection from the book Sonidero City, and also on the outside walls of the gallery there are some really amazingly big images of sound systems. Probably almost one-to-one for some of them, which you should go and check out as well. The exhibition's open till the 23rd of October, so if you are in Liverpool, do go and check that out. We're open 11 till 4, Wednesday to Sunday. And there's also an online version of the exhibition that's going to be coming very soon. So we're going to be speaking for around, I'd say, like 40 minutes or so. And after that, this Twitch stream will kind of turn over into a radio stream where we're going to be broadcasting a mix of Cumbia music that Mirjam has put together. Mirjam can tell you a bit more about Cumbia and its musical roots. So do stick around. And also we're going to be chatting on our Discord server. So the link to join the server I think it's in the description of this video. So do join up, do get in there, come and say hey, we'll be hanging out. If you have any questions, we can answer them then. Cool. So Mirjam Wirz is an artist and researcher who's been working a lot within Central and Latin America, so across Mexico and Colombia. Her book Sonidero City looks at the culture of the Sonido, so that's the sound system, and that refers both to the actual kind of like sound system unit itself, these kind of like really quite like technical DIY like feats of engineering, and also refers to the actual like sort of human structure and culture around the sound system. So that's like the DJ, the MCs, the people, the technicians that run the sound system, and of course the people that kind of make the party. Cool. So Mirjam, I'm gonna hand over to you.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be in that Zoom room together with you, Jacob. Welcome to the audience that is out there somewhere. I want to give a small introduction into my project, into Cumbia music and sound systems. That's the basis of the researches I'm working on for the last 10 years. Also I will present shortly the 6 books I published so far with the material of my researches, and then hopefully we can also have a discussion, because I'm very curious to know what Jacob is thinking about this, what he can add, and also the audience. Okay, so I'll switch to my screen. I start with a picture that's actually a poster. The first couple of years I was researching in Mexico, I got used to, or I started to print a poster every time I went for research, which normally was 2 to 3 months I was spending there. And at the end of that time, I was putting together the pictures I just took during that research period, and I was making a poster out of it. So this is the one side, it's a 2-sided poster. This is the front side of a poster saying un pueblo sin música es un pueblo sin alma. People without music are people without the soul. And it's the slogan of one of the sound systems in Mexico City. I'll shortly speak about cumbia music because cumbia in Europe is also known, but not so much known. I'll do it really short. Like cumbia music started at the Caribbean coast of Colombia. It's roughly said a mixture of indigenous African and Spanish elements. The music started to travel from the 30s, 40s across Latin America and reached Mexico in the 50s, 60s, more or less. So the music starting from Colombia traveled throughout the continent and became popular in many different countries. And the very specific thing about cumbia, I think, is that in each country it adapted with local ways of playing music or local instruments. So Mexican cumbia is Colombian music, but at the same time it's Mexican music. Also cumbia music, other than salsa music, for instance, never reached really the upper classes. It's a music style that comes out of a rural life, and it basically stayed mostly with the working class neighborhoods. In Mexico, the cumbia became popular around the beginning of the 60s. And in Mexico, that's specific for Mexico, it mixed with the sound system. So the cumbia played in Mexico is always played by sound systems. And the main figure in the sound system scene is the sonidero, it's called in Mexico, the sound system operator. And as Jacob was explaining a bit before, the sonidero, he has a very complex job, like he's doing many things in one person, or combining. He's the MC, he's talking on the microphone, he's the master of ceremony, at the same time he's the selector, he selects the music, mostly also he's the one playing it. He's the owner of the sound systems, which means that also he's able to, like he has the technical skills to maintain a sound system. And then there are smaller sound systems of people who operate the sound system besides their regular jobs. And then there are massive big sound systems that are basically businesses, small businesses, a lot of them family businesses, and who have people who are working with them. That's one family I met very in the beginning of my research is Sonido Continental, Sonido Continental from one neighborhood in Mexico City. I'll show some images of different sound systems. You see they have the logo, Delgado is the name of the sound system. Here the truck for transporting the sound system of Sonido Master. They always have a name and they have a logotype for their sound system. Sonido La Changa is one of the earliest and still very popular sound sonideros in Mexico City. The sound system itself, like here is one smaller example, are just loudspeakers, basically set up for the street dances, like the original working place or the place for the sound systems are the streets, but also they play in dance halls and they play more and more just in dance halls, but I'll speak about this later. Normally the sonidero starts with one part of equipment and then according to how things are going, he builds more and more. So that's quite a bigger one already. Sonido Pirata from León, Guanajuato. This is a massive sound system in a dance hall in the former Olympic swimming pool in Mexico City. That's like a convention center where there, in one night, like several sound systems build up their towers, and then they switch playing. That's a small community center in a neighborhood in Mexico City. They have just one little sound system, but also you see the gray thing where where the name of the sonidero is written in Cubanese. That's the, I don't know in English, in Spanish it's trompeta. That's where in the earlier times of the sound systems, how they would distribute the music. Like they had the boxes, but also the speakers, but also they had these trompetas. They were hanging in on the houses or in the trees to spread the music even further. Sonido La Conga, one of the bigger ones in Mexico City, in the street dance. That's a poster for a street dance 9 years ago, and you see the logos. That's one of the massive sound system nights with 8 sound systems playing. And that's one image of in northern Mexico City, in a neighborhood, how this street dance looks. The street dance is like that one. It's very much community, or like a neighborhood thing. So for a big one, the sound systems, he builds up 2 days. Technicians are around building up. People come, have a look, and then it normally starts maybe at 6, 7 o'clock, and then everybody shows up from the neighborhood. It's just one block is closed, and everybody from the nearer neighborhood shows up in order to dance, to meet, to see each other. And normally also people from the neighborhood, they take part in some way, like building up a barbecue grill to sell food, putting up a bar and sell drinks. Some people open their houses so people can use the bathroom for some pesos, so everybody somehow can participate. And for me, this I'm most fond of these street dances, and it was always really amazing, the feeling to be inside this crowd, because it feels that for that moment it's the center of the world. We maybe can speak about the center of the world later, but that's somehow the feel. The music is extremely loud, so it's hard to talk to people. It's just loud, and it's best to dance. I'll show some other places where I've been to sound system dances. That's a small salon, a small club. Another street dance. Some are on squares in neighborhoods. Some are more directed, according to the music, to an older crowd. Some are more for a younger crowd, but most of them also are really mixed. This was the anniversary for a guy who is working with the garbage, how do you say in English? The waste trucks. And it was his birthday party on the parking lot where they park the waste trucks in the night. And then people were dancing there, a small club. That's one sonidero from León, Guanajuato, Sonido Pinky. And you see the people around him. That's due to something that became really important from 2000, more or less. The sonidero in earlier times, he was talking through the microphone, but mostly announcing the following song he was playing, maybe saying 2-3 words about the song. But from some years ago, they started to pass greetings that people pass to him through the microphone. So you can see one guy's directly saying his greetings to the sonidero. Some, for bigger events or concerts, they bring posters. And mostly on the posters, what you can read is the name of their gang, the name of their friends, the place or the area they come from. That's a very luxury greeting card because that's tissue. It's like handmade greeting tissue. So the thing about the greetings, people, it's a bit like fan culture in football, maybe. People have mostly their favorite sound system and they want to be mentioned by the sound system they are fond of. That has to do that every sound system night, at least bigger sound system nights, they are recorded on DVD and CD. And during the night, during the sound system night, you can buy the CD already, or you can buy it from next day on the market. So people want to be on the CD with their greetings. Also, a lot of times it's people giving messages, you know, to their friends, to their loves. In a worst case, they pass greetings or offenses to the opposite gang, which ends in problems. Then a lot of people also use it in order to greet family members who migrated to the United States. So later they can send a piece of the culture of their neighborhood with the greetings to them to the other side of the border.
A really quick question just about like the economy of those, of like selling those CDs, like who's selling them and how are they sold? And I guess like what I'm getting at there is that like is there such thing as like commercial success for a Sonido, or is that just not matter? Is that just like not the culture?
Well, it depends if it's a big sound system or a small one. The big ones, some of them earn good money, because they are invited to a lot of festivities that are like celebrations, maybe celebrations connected to the church. That's where a lot of sound systems are involved. Or also neighborhood parties, like the neighborhood is celebrating every year or New Year. Their most busiest season is December, before Christmas. So their fee to play is quite high, but also they have a lot of material, but some of them, they earn money. The smaller ones, in most of the cases, as I said, they have side job, they have a main job, and that's just the sound systems beside their job, because they couldn't earn enough to make a living of it.
Mm.
Your questions about the CD, well, the CD is sold by people connected to the sound system. And I guess they get part of they split a bit the money, but these CDs and DVDs are really not expensive because they are bootlegs, basically. And it's not official licensed CDs, it's just recording.
Yeah, of course.
In the field. Yeah.
Do you ever get like bootlegs of the bootlegs? Like copies made? Is there like a secondary economy of that?
Of CDs?
Mm.
Yeah, I guess some I bought are bootlegs of bootlegs, but I wouldn't see the difference.
You don't admit that online, like, yeah.
But I'll speak about bootlegs later, because I had one of my books bootlegged as well.
Yeah, no, it's like it's such a it's really like distributed music economy that I guess like empowers people more, like the stages of it. Like it's nice that there's a music economy that exists outside of kind of like the gatekeepers of like labels or like the streaming platforms that are like extractive in their own way. Like it's just so much more distributed. Like I think that as a music economy, it's like, yeah, I really rate that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that was just a quick clarifying question. I didn't want to derail you. Please go on.
Well, we arrive at this street. It's called Balderas Street. It's in the center of Mexico City. That's where along the street you will find LP, the people selling LPs, like secondhand LPs. And I was in the beginning of my research, I went to those people, talking to some of them, explaining a bit what my plan was, researching about cumbia music and what would they advise me where to go. And most of them said, well, you have to talk to that guy over there. There was an older guy called, his nickname is Morelos. He plays an important role in one of my books that I'll explain later. So I talked to Morelos, and he was among the very few people that started to travel in the 60s to Colombia in order to find Cumbia LPs and bring them back to Mexico in quite adventurous journeys and distribute them to the sound system owners. Because most of them, they wouldn't travel by themselves, but there were people like Morelos who would bring the LPs from Colombia. So he, among others, was very influential in influenced a lot of what was heard in the 80s from the sound systems. This is important because in the times when the sound system were playing, the Sonideros were playing LPs and not CDs or MP3 files like today. The sound system, it was the most important to have LPs exclusively that no other Sonidero would have. If you had an exclusive LP, this would mean that people would just come to your event because they want to hear that song. And so this was an important business, and of course this all was drastically changed then a bit later when the digital format arrived in the scene. So here I met Morelos, and from that moment I started to go around with him. Like, he presented me to a lot of people he knows in the scene all over Mexico because of his travels. And basically my research was collaboration from the beginning with him. After 3 years, I decided to collect the material in the format of a book. And this is the book Sonidero City that was published in 2013. It's self-published. And it's basically, I'll show some of the pages, it's basically an overview or introduction into my research about the sound systems in Mexico City, in Monterrey, in northern Mexico, and one part about the sound system scene on the Caribbean coast in Colombia. It's more than 200 pages of images. There is no text next to the images. This is the part from Colombia. You see the sound systems look quite different because they are all painted. In the back of the book, there is a poster I made with some of the images in the book. And also you see on the right side, there is a small booklet that gives an introduction to the theme, some interviews, and also a really precise index with explanations about every single picture in the book. I just was really sure I don't want to have text next to the images, because I don't like if people read the images through the text, because we are used to first read the text and then have a look at the image. So I wanted to separate the two. Also, what a lot of people asked me, but I was not, I didn't want to have included a CD with the book. I didn't include an audio or a music in the book. It's visual and text. I was telling about the bootleg, because in 2014 I was invited to present Sonidero City in Mexico City in the Spanish Cultural Center. And I brought as many books as I could carry in bring on a plane in 2 suitcases. And I was there after the presentation with maybe 20 books, and a lot of the Sonideros who I knew for years already, who also are inside the book, were there, and I didn't have books for all the people. And I felt that's the worst thing that can happen, that I bring the book people knew about and were also waiting for it, and then they cannot access the book because it was printed in Europe. So next day I went to a printing house called Panther Publicidades. He is a guy I knew because he's printing the posters for the sound system dances, sound system events. And I passed him the PDF of Sonidero City and I asked him to do a bootleg or a black and white copy. for a low price, 500 books that we later, Morelos and me, were distributing to the Sonideros, to the people who sell the CDs at the market, so people could have the book and also earn some money with the book in exchange for the pictures I took from them. I heard there is already a PDF, a bootleg of the bootleg, because of course after 500 books the PDF didn't dissolve, so Panther, I think, continued printing, which is totally fine, because my idea was really to have it spread as much as possible.
I noticed that there was like a slight change between those two books. There's like one was the original, one was the bootleg. Like, in what other ways did it change? And do you mind that?
No, on the right side is the original. The
right.
letters are put together and then it's silk screened. On the left side, they took other letters because I didn't have the...
that wasn't on the PDF.
No, it was not a PDF. On the PDF, so they just took what seemed the most close. And then you see the color, it's another paper. Also inside the book, the pages are the same, just black and white. The paper he took for the print is the paper he uses for the posters. So through the material of these pages, it connects to the posters of the sound system events, which is a paper that's really cheap, and also I really like the idea that it uses the same material. The only thing really changed beside the cover is that the booklet in the back is not separate, because that was a bit expensive to do. So it's the last pages of the book are the pages of the booklet. It's separate in the original.
How did the bootleg make its way to you?
The bootleg of the bootleg?
Yeah.
Well, I've never seen it.
Right. Okay.
Some people told me about it, but I've never seen it. And
you're gonna wait until the bootleg of the bootleg of the bootleg comes out and then get that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when I normally, the original book is sold out. Now I only have the bootleg. When I made the bootleg in Mexico, people were just glad that it doesn't take another year to find money to print it in color in Mexico. You know, it just was there immediately. But most of the people like the color version better because it's a lot of colors. You know, it's colorful, and they prefer it. A lot of people in Europe, in the art scene, they like the bootleg better because it seems more authentic to them. And that's also how, you know, how translation of ideas, material, and prints are going. You know. So I quite like that. While I was spending time in the printing house of Panther, who did the bootleg, I realized, or I saw that in the back of the printing house he had like boxes of flyers. So I asked him about those flyers, and he said that he has a collection of maybe 4,000 flyers of sound system parties in the 80s. Not tropical music, not cumbia, but disco sound systems. That was the other sound systems that existed in Mexico. High energy sound systems. So he was, as a young guy, fan of that music, and he really liked the flyers. That's the cover of the book. I show some pages inside. So he started to collect the flyers, but then soon realized he is not able to go to all the parties, you know, to pick up the next flyer. So he let himself be hired in the printing house where they printed the flyers, and they paid him in flyers, not in pesos. So that's why he has almost a full collection of the flyers, and also he learned to be a printer, you know. That's partly why he's a printer today. He has his own printing house. So together with him, we selected 300 of the flyers that are displayed in that book called La Colección de Panther, Panther's Collection. And then there is an interview with Jaime Ruelas, a designer from Mexico City who basically draw most of these flyers, and he's invented the sound system graphic style that you still see till today. The logos you saw before I showed, that's the logos based on his design. I explain this because, I mean, how I now show the books, it's chronologically. And this is a bit important because I never really conceptually plan my next book or my next step, but it's all one journey I'm on, and one thing leads me to the other. Like, as I explained, I saw the flyers in the printing house because I was doing the bootleg. So things quite organically somehow are building up, and that's the way I research, and that's the way the books and the material emerges. So while publishing the last book I was speaking about, I still went around to visit Sonideros and sound system events with Morelos here in the picture. And then one day he said he would like to invite Carlos Icaza, a musician and DJ from Mexico City, a friend of ours, and me on a journey. The thing is, Morelos, he's one of the persons knowing most about the sound systems in Mexico because of his travelings through the country, bringing the LPs to them. But he never wants to give interviews. A lot of people want to interview him, but he doesn't like to speak in public. Partly he's shy, partly he doesn't like to speak officially. Like he would say, I bring you to the house of a sonidero and you ask him yourself. You know? But then at some point, he realized that all his knowledge might get lost one day if he doesn't pass it on. So what he asked us is to do a trip through Mexico to the places he always brought the LPs, and to the people he always met on his trips, and we would record interviews with these people and then edit the material into a book. So that's the book that was published 2016. It's called Ojos Suaves, Soft Eyes. It's not about Morelos because he didn't want a book about him, but it's dedicated to him, and it speaks about him through the people and the places that are displayed in the book. I made 3 parts in the edition. It opens with a part I call Sonidero Archive, and that's lists and small fanzines and other material that the Sonideros themselves were doing, producing and creating inside the scene. What you can see here at this page, it's one booklet of 5, and it shows possible names for sound systems. One sonidero from Mexico, Sonido Fascinación, one of the earlier ones and really big ones. He also had he has a shop with selling records, and he does jingles for sound systems because they always have a name, a logo, but also a jingle. So what he did was inventing hundreds of names in case young people want to start a sound system. They can visit him at the shop. He would make the jingle for them, and they can find a name for their future sound system. So that's one page. That's a fanzine of another sonidero. That's a list of Gabriel Dueñez, a sonidero from Monterrey, northern Mexico, who invented the cumbia rebajada, the pitch down cumbia they like in the north. He has a great collection of LPs, and he also always had the opinion that his collection is for everybody. He thinks music have to be shared, and if he's lucky enough to have a good collection, the collection have to be shared with the people. He had a store, he was selling CDs at the market, him together with his wife for many years. So he had this black booklet, Dueñez black booklet, where people could visit him at the market, make a list of songs they wanted to have recorded, and then he would record a cassette, a tape, with those songs from his LP collection. That's the part, the second part, that's the interviews with the people we met on the way. It's like an oral history part that speaks basically about the beginnings of the sound system scene in Mexico. And the third part is a photo essay. I call it similar to my first book again, that just displays the images I took on the trips. I'll show some of the images in the book in big.
What were those? Were those magazines or?
That's just magazines, comics,
right.
Football magazines. He's not a sonidero. He unfortunately died a couple of years ago. He's El Ranchero from León, Guanajuato, and he was a great collector of music and knowing a lot about music, but he's never been a sonidero. But he had a market, how do you say, a market stall or a place at the market. He was selling also LPs and magazines.
I really like this this story of this guy that like just opened up his whole record collection to everybody. Like I think that, you know, you often get DJs who are like really, really protective over their music and are like really like anti, you know, there's this app now like Shazam, like that was a whole thing in dance music for a culture for a while where like DJs were really like anti Shazam because everyone got their trade secrets. But then on the other hand, I know that like Frankie Knuckles like made his entire record collection just like an open library that anybody could access in Chicago, which I thought was like, yeah, a really cool move.
Mm-hmm. That's him, the one with the record collection. So
yeah.
Well, yeah, there is a great, and that's not only him that has this kind of opinion. There is a great sense of people I met on my researches to share things, you know, somehow sharing the music, sharing the knowledge, sharing the night, sharing. It's very much a sense of community, I think.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to ask you actually after you like wrapped up your talk, but maybe we can jump to that now. Like one thing I'm really interested in your project, and I think your project kind of documents this more than other kind of like in a lot of sort of party photography that we're used to is kind of like photographers are focusing on the crowd and they're focusing on the kind of like euphoria of people in the space. Whereas I feel like your project kind of looks at the party less as an event and more as like a space through which there is this like kinship is exercised and practiced. So I'm really interested in like what happens around the sound system. So particularly like food and eating together, which I understand is like a big part of it. And yeah, I just really like to hear more about this aspect of it. That's kind of about community care and sharing and kind of like mutual aid in a way.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also has to do with the fact that the sound systems are part of the poorer neighborhoods. And poorer neighborhoods, they have a different, it's of course a different life than the middle class neighborhoods in the center or the rich neighborhoods in the outskirts. These classes are very much divided. Sound systems play in the poorer neighborhoods, and never, of course, there are also, I mean, they live because of, or they exist because of the love for music of people that's really big. People really love that music, but also it's connected, of course, to a lack of resources, you know, to like La Changa, one of the bigger sound systems that, or sonideros that I was showing before. He was in an interview, he was saying when we started to play, people from the poorer neighborhoods, from our barrios, our people didn't have money to go to a salon, to a dance hall, pay entrance, and spend the night at the dance hall. People want to dance, but they cannot access the dance halls because of lack of economic resources. So the sound systems are also connected to that lack of resources, because you can start, the first sound systems were small ones. It was not big businesses. It was small sound systems, and you can put it anywhere, and it's for free. In the very beginning also, they were less used for general parties, but they were invited to play at private parties that were organized not in a dance hall neither, because people couldn't afford to rent a dance hall for a wedding or for a birthday party. So they would just make the party outside their house or in the courtyard and invite the sonidero. And the sonidero, it's not a band you have to pay. It's just one person with the LPs, a small sonido, and then you have the music. You have your, like somebody said, it's like the disco for the poor people.
Mirjam, do you want to show some more images, or should we quit the screen share just so we can see you more? Because right now you're quite small, just in the corner. Do you want to show some more images?
I think we saw a lot. Maybe I will show just.
Yeah. Let's do that, and then I have a question for you.
Yeah, I'll show just the next book, because that's the book that the images out of this book are also seen as you explained, on the outside of the gallery. So this is one book. There is, like Panther's collection, there are two books that basically eliminate the context of the sound system culture. Panther's collection only shows the graphic design and the flyers, and this book is a selection of my images that I always took at the events before they start, just of the sound systems. But you don't see the people, you don't see the food they will sell, you just see the sound systems as basically as monuments, because that's a bit how they stand as well in the street or in the dance hall. They're like small monuments, and they are all different. So that's a book only speaking about this. These I wanted to show, and now
these are the graphics these are the logos of the sound systems, right?
Yeah, that's the logo.
Yeah. When's this book out? When can people get it?
This is out already. Last year it was published.
Cool. So I guess head to your website and people can find that.
Yes, so just Google it. It's sold through different also bookstores. It's Motto in Berlin. It's Printed Matter in New York. It's the Swiss Cultural Center Library in Paris. So those who have online, who sell online, it's mostly easier to buy through. If somebody doesn't find it, also it's always possible to send me an email, and I can.
Or you can wait for the bootleg. Thank you, Mirjam. I have a question. I just want to bring it back to working class culture, and I think it is important to recognise that sound system cultures worldwide are working class music cultures. I want to talk about sonidos in relation to like sound system cultures worldwide. So like Jamaican and Caribbean musics, like dancehall, soca, dub, or like the culture of the Festa de Quintal in Angola, or like in the UK, the sound system culture of the Black British working class. That's like the bedrock of all UK dance music today. I wanted to ask, like, what does Latin American sound system culture share with this like wider international sound system culture, and in what ways does it depart? Like, what's like specific to the sound system culture of Latin America?
Well, I don't know if I can so much answer that question, because when I started to research in Mexico, the only sound systems I really know better a bit was the Jamaican sound systems. Well, But I never visited Jamaica. I knew it through the music. I knew it through reggae sound systems in Switzerland, but I never saw them in Jamaica. So I hardly can compare. I think the idea or the basis of a sound system anywhere in the world is probably similar, as you say. It's connected to a working class. It's connected to set up in the street in order to dance, you know. I mean, that's the basis of the sound systems. I can compare, for instance, the sound systems in the Caribbean coast of Colombia and the ones in Mexico, because that's the two scenes I really know better a bit. And what's the difference there? It's a difference in the music. As you say, that a sound system is not connected to one style of music. In Colombia, for instance, the picos, they are called. The picos always played the music that was the most popular. Whereas in Mexico, they played cumbia for 40 years. In Colombia, you hear sound systems playing the picos. They set up on Sunday afternoon. And a lot of people have their private sound systems, or they just put it outside their house on the balcony or on the terrace. And then they meet, they drink, they dance. But there are sound system events, and they are normally functioning, they're working like paddles. So two set up in front of each other, and then they start to, to win the audience. Something you wouldn't see in Mexico. There are no battles between the...
Like a sound clash.
Like a sound clash. In Mexico, you find on the weekend the sound system events in the evenings, in the night, but also they started as some start in the afternoon. So it's less connected to a certain day of the week, maybe. So that's... I don't know if that answers your question, but that's like differences, for instance, I can see. But in both cases, it's a culture of how to listen to music and how to set up a dance situation that's connected to the working class.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick shout out to Camilla, who is a Colombian artist in the UK who's watching along and is loving all the Cumbia chat. I want to pick up that last point where it's kind of, it's less about you said it was almost less about like the music and less about the spectatorship and more about like making the dance. Like the focus is on building the dance floor. The focus is not on kind of like building the reputation of the DJ, for example, which is something that you see quite a lot in like club dance music within like Europe. So I guess, I mean, I touched on this before, but I'm interested in the party not as like an event, but as a space, and one that's made and that's sustained by everybody in attendance, and like through which many parties like play a part. So the MC and the DJ, but also like the technicians or the people in attendance or the people making food. I'm interested in the space as one through which you can like, in many ways, quite like effortlessly like disimagine existing social structures. And there's something like very politically powerful about that. So I suppose my question would be like, what role do these parties play in like the political imagination of Latin America?
Well, I only can speak about Mexico again, because this I just want to mention, because I never want to speak like being an expert on something.
Yeah, of course.
Something I'm an expert on is my own life, and not always. So I just can speak of my experiences, what I learned in my researches. So I prefer speaking about Mexico. It's definitely, as you say, it's not an event. It's a space being created with the people and for the people. It's very amazing to see a Sonidero play, because it's a dance situation, but also it's like a live radio. I was mentioning the saludos, the sound greetings. But not only he passes the greetings, saying big up Jacob. But also he, like especially because he plays a lot in the areas he knows. You know, he's invited to areas he knows. So the Sonidero has to know what music like people at the place where he is going to play. And in Mexico City, if you two streets further, they might like salsa as well. But 2 streets to that side, they don't like salsa, so they wouldn't accept it, you know. So you have to know the audience. And also he is like constantly commenting on the audience. Like he starts to play and then he sees people arriving and then he makes jokes. There's a lot of jokes as well. It's like a insider language commentaries, you know. It's like a radio, but more community-based somehow, because it's not for a general audience. Part of it I would never understand because I didn't grow up there. I don't know the people. So he's constantly connecting to the like creating the atmosphere, but also connecting to the people and communicating with the people. I don't know how much time we have, but what I did, because on the CDs you can buy from the events or from the bailes, there is also these parts with when you can hear the Sonidero talking. And one of these greetings of Sonido Sonorámico, I extracted and I translated it and I could play it if you...
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. So I think you'll need to share your screen, and then as you share, you need to say like share system audio, and then we should be able to hear it.
Sure. Let's see.
So like down at the bottom next to share screen. Okay, so if you need to stop sharing your screen for 1 second.
Okay.
And then click share again, but like in the window that comes up at the bottom left, there's a little box that says share computer sound. So if you just click that before you share, then we'll be able to hear it.
Okay.
Cool.
So we hear the beginning of a sound system night with Sonidero Sonorámico in Mexico City.
Un saludo para el Bolitas del Peñón de los Baños que nos acompaña hoy. Le mandamos cordialmente un saludo al Bolitas directamente del Peñón de los Baños que hoy nos acompaña. Precisamente nada menos que nuestro buen amigo DJ Junior. Le mandamos cordialmente un saludo a ellos. Susanita, Chicha, Robere, Poli, Danutus, le mandamos cordialmente un saludo. Hoy en este programa hay un tema que estamos seguros que a usted le va a encantar y le va a traer muchos recuerdos hoy en este bonito baile. Vamos a darle una cumbia cúbica.
La cumbia va a empezar. Ay, ay, los tambores. Ay, ay, ay. Van a sonar. Ay, ay, ay.
Oye.
Ay, ay, ay.
Esto es Sonido Sonorámico de corazón.
Ay, ay, ay.
Orgullosamente Colonia Impulsora.
Ay, ay, ay.
Para Diego Jerry y los chicos malos. Con agua pura. Para Sergio y los intocables del Señor de los Gallos. Además para Brian, Sonia, San Miguel de corazón. Ya llegó el primer castroso. Ah, no, perdón. Ya llegó el chicuelo.
La paso pensándote.
Además para Agnes y para Gilbert. Llegó Sonido Valle de la colonia Santa Lina. ¿Quién es ese güey? Y su vieja, porque ya está vieja.
Queriéndote. Hace una semana que te fuiste y yo no puedo dormir tranquilo. Vives siempre metida en mi mente.
Yeah, I want to be in the Impulsara neighborhood right now.
You should go there.
Yeah. As soon as this is over, we'll do a big group trip to the Impulsara neighborhood. Yeah, wow. I I know you spoke about the Sonidos before, but I guess like I'd like to connect that, I suppose, to like wider sound system cultures as like a kind of like a community news broadcast platform, like almost like a sort of like DIY like hyper local radio station. So like I know that in a lot of like early like British Black working class sound system culture, when people of color were kind of like denied a platform, or like weren't represented, their news wasn't necessarily represented in any of the kind of like institutional news platforms, the sound system became a kind of like vector of news and a vector of information in the community. So like outside of the shout outs and like the region identifications and the messages of like love to friends and family, is there much of like a culture of this as well, of kind of like broadcasting news as such, or broadcasting like I guess what other kinds of information is imparted?
What do you mean?
What other kind of things are kind of like the MC, is it just Saludos and it's just the shout outs, or are there other forms of like knowledge that are shared through the sound system?
With a microphone, you mean? Or
yeah, sorry, you're quite quiet now, I think. Oh no, you're good, you're right.
You mean the words, what they are saying through the microphone?
Yeah, I guess like in addition to the shout outs to friends and family, and in addition to the like people talking about their neighborhoods, are there other kinds of information that are shared? So for example, like local news, or like
well, they refer to I would say too, but not as a main thing, but also like commenting things that are going on. Like, for instance, the last couple of years, I mentioned in the beginning, the sound systems in Mexico are, like their situations changed drastically. Now I speak before Corona, because they need, for the street dances, they need a permission from the municipality, from the government, city government. And less and less they get the permissions. So they are not allowed to do street dances anymore because there are problems with drugs and violence at the dances. The problem there is that the sonideros, they're from the poorer neighborhoods, so they don't have a lobby, you know. They don't have a lobby like football has a lobby, for instance. What they would need, and it would solve the problem quite easily, is just a bit of support, to have enough security at the entrance, you know, to control slightly the situation at the baile. And then it would be fine, because they know the people, you know, they know who is there and they know who could be trouble, and you know. But they don't have the money to hire security. They cannot raise the prices for the entrance for the bigger nights, because people couldn't pay it. So basically they are forced by the government, who don't want to support them, to only play in the dance halls. But any sonidero I ask, he says, that's fine, but our like working place is the street, and it's just not the same. So 2 years ago I was at a very traditional dance Cumbia baile at the biggest market in Mexico City, La Merced, and there is this annual yearly baile that's connected to the celebration of the market. And it was a couple of days before it should happen, it was cancelled by the government. They weren't allowed to do that. We went there in the morning, and they were still setting up the sound system, but they were hanging it they were putting it on the terrace of one house, so it wouldn't stand on the street. If police comes, they cannot seize it, you know. And then Sonoramico, the guy we just heard talk in the recording, he was playing there when I was there, and he was, of course, making jokes, but also commentaries about having to hang the sound system in the sky. Otherwise, you know, he would not be allowed at all anymore to be doing his job. And of course, they would refer to such things happening, you know, because they're important for the communities, they're important part of the life of the poorer neighborhoods, but they are really getting, how do you say, basically they want them to be out of sight, you know. And instead of supporting, but then there is the other side trying to think it's like cultural heritage, and they need to be cultural patrimonio, like, you know, like cultural heritage, which I think is not the best solution either. Well, I think what they tell me, they need permissions to play, and they need the security to control things, but they don't need to be in the museum. They don't need to be put in a museum as a heritage. They don't need to be put in the dance halls. They just need to be able to play where they always have been playing, because they are still important for also a younger generation, also an older generation. The sound systems are not, it's not youth culture. It's like the culture of the people of any age of the barrio. So.
I have a couple more questions for you, but I'm just quite conscious of time. So maybe these are questions that we can take over to the Discord server. So if anyone isn't already in there, I think the link to join the Discord server is in the description below the video. I'd like to ask you about like the gentrification of the sound system. So I'm thinking specifically of like what it meant for like Boiler Room to have to run a system at like Notting Hill Carnival a couple of years ago, and like some of the conversations that kind of rose around that. I'd also like to talk about like knowledge sharing. Like I know you mentioned that there was this guy that was like wouldn't speak to anybody, and it was kind of like you know, was quite like protective over the knowledge, but then realized that it was going to die along with him. So I'd be curious to know if there are any resources or like archives that people can go to kind of like learn more about this stuff. So yeah, do come and say hello in the Discord. Also, just like a quick thank you to SEVENSTORE for supporting this event. Just to reiterate, this is part of a wider program, so you can watch the past events online. And if you're in Liverpool, you can also go to the exhibition IRL. We're open until the 23rd of October, Wednesday to Sunday, 11 to 4. So if you are around, do come and say hello. Before we disappear, Mirjam, is there any last things you want to share? Any last projects that you're working on that you'd like to throw out onto the world?
The research is going on now with a break, obviously, but after the last book I did in Mexico, I decided I think it's time to go find the roots of cumbia music. I want to know where this music really comes from. So that was a research I did 2 years ago, and a year ago a book about that research was published. It's called Sobre el Río, and it's a trip I did along the Rio Magdalena. The Magdalena River is the big river that crosses from close to the capital, goes through northern Colombia and into the Caribbean Sea. And Rio Magdalena is said, the lower Rio Magdalena is said to be the birthplace of cumbia music. So I wanted to find the birthplace of places of cumbia music. That's one idea that was one idea for the research. The other one was, I was reading about the connection of rivers and music, which I found quite interesting. Like rivers in certain times had an important role in the distribution of music in the countries, and from the world to the countries and from countries to the world. I read an article saying, for instance, what the Mississippi River was for the blues music was the Rio Magdalena for cumbia music. So I decided to travel along the lower Rio Magdalena. For 2.5 months I was traveling there and meeting musicians and speaking about the origins of cumbia music, and that's what the latest book is about. So
Right.
now everything was stopped, but basically the idea now for the near future would be to go back to Colombia and do a bigger presentation tour of the book in Colombia and work with the book there.
Cool. And that's Sobre el Rio?
Sobre el Rio. Yeah.
Sobre el Rio, cool. Yeah, everybody keep an eye out for that. I'm sure, like all your projects, it'll be killer. All right, cool. Anyone who's still, well, for the people who are still with us on the Twitch, stick around. I'm going to end this stream. There might be maybe 20-second pause, but then we're going to be back up with the time we call our own radio with a special Cumbia edition of a Cumbia mix put together by Mirjam. So yeah, stick around for that and come and say hey in the Discord. Mirjam, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure finally getting to have this conversation with you, and I'll see you in the Discord.
Yeah, thank you a lot, and I'll see you in a moment. Or I hear you. I don't know if you on the radio you will hear it.
Cool. All right. See you soon. So long.